I'm not here because I want to be here. I'm here because I need to be here. None of us are really here by choice. I think asking the question, why did you come, is very important. We should recognize that it's the final stand to beat back the corporate interests rather than the needs of the people. And that's the fight that we're seeing. This is a pipeline that's not dissimilar to the pipelines that we protected in Iraq. When I was a soldier in the war, I recognized that the pipe itself would be blown up by insurgents, and here the pipe is in and of itself a bomb, is in and of itself an explosive device that is demolishing our environment. I've spent my time in activism fighting for gay rights and for equality. And I now recognize, after 2 years of fighting, that we can be legally equal, and we certainly will fight for our future generations, but I want them to be able to live equally in a clean world, in a place where we have sustainable environment and that the skies are still blue and people can still breathe. So I don't see any difference or conflict between my being a gay rights activist and coming here to try and educate people about this tar sands action and this pipeline that's going to destroy our environment as well as the environment of other countries. Well, this in particular is, to me, a boiling point in the environmental movement when we realize that there's always one point, a decisive point, as you might call in the military terminology, a point that allows the opposition to rush in or allows us to hold our ground. We saw many moments like these, decisive points, not only in the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal fight, or the labor unions in Wisconsin, or Arab Spring this year, but we see it in our daily lives. There comes a time when people have to stand their ground, not just for their lifetime or for their comfort. We're certainly not here for our pleasure. It's not easy to go to jail, and every time that we risk that arrest, there's a certain fear that's built up in our hearts. But we risk that because we do not want the outcome to snowball into a worse disaster for our environment. And if we let anybody run roughshod over us today on an issue as important as this, then how far are we going to bend over for everyone else to come in and do what they like to us and our children and our families? Anybody that tells us that we're foolish for going and dramatizing this event as it needs to be dramatized because our lives are dramatized by inaction, anybody who tells us that we're going overboard needs to realize that this president, by standing on the sidelines or delaying presidential action, is in fact taking a bold stand against the environment, and those terms need to be made as clear as possible. First, with the president as well. It is not only politically important to target the president now simply because he has the decision-making power, but because he is the moral leader of all elected offices, all elected politicians in our government. So goes President Obama, goes the entire country, and I think that his moral leadership on the environment has been lacking, particularly compared to his promises that we will see the end to these receding waters and the degradation of our entire land. I think this is a moment that if he needs us to push him, we're ready. His soldiers are standing by. And I, for one, am not doing this simply to get arrested. I think people need to realize that. Nobody wants to get arrested. If President Obama tonight declares that he will stop the pipeline from being established, then I will celebrate, but not a moment before that. And that's what we need to know, more than just political targetry. The first ingredient to civil disobedience is reassuring yourself and acknowledging to yourself that this is so important that you will not give up until you achieve what you set out to accomplish to begin with. All the other stuff, all the money and the legislative bickering and the media work, all of that will come. People like you are going to continue covering this and educating. All of that will come. But what's most important for all the participants, beyond politics, beyond money, beyond fame, beyond rank, beyond comfort, is that perseverance and that commitment. And that's what's lacking, not only in our president, particularly on this issue, but in the entirety of the American citizenry right now is lacking in that courage and that stick-to-itiveness that made this country what it is. There are always multiple effects of any action. It's not the law of thermodynamics, so clean and simple that energy must come, and you can predict where that energy will be replaced. The energy that we show tomorrow at the White House is a transformative energy that is not ever replaced but replicated and continues to build like a fire so that others may stand up and look upon us, not only educate themselves about the tar sands, and not only wonder why is a gay rights activist going, and let me understand why he's doing this, and let me understand and read what's already out there on the websites by the people who have done great work. But they say for their own issues, they also see that the government does respond to the people. And this is applicable not just to environmental issues, but to human rights issues, to civil rights, to workers' rights, to immigration, and all of the other people who feel downtrodden by a government that does not listen. This president does listen, and I am living proof of that, but only if you have the courage to not give up and continue to use visible as well as dramatic protests that are not only our right under the First Amendment of the Constitution, but our responsibility as citizens who owe something to our neighbors and to future generations. And if that is accomplished, if there's a soldier who's listening and says, I too can do my role and do my part as a citizen, that will be success.